Hey, welcome back to another episode of Forget About It Fridays Unfiltered, where we don't pull punches, we don't sugarcoat nothing, and we keep it all the way real about life in the junk game.
That's right. No fluff, no filters, just the kind of straight talk you wish your franchise rep gave you.
And tonight, we got a certified legend in the house. This man helped build the customer service systems at 1 800 Got Junk, ran multiple franchises, and now owns his own beast of a company, Survivor Junk Removal.
He's been in the trenches. You've seen the highs and the lows and every busted hot tub between.
Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise in the chat for the one and only Kevin Hess.
Yee yee.
What's up, team?
What up? What up, Kevin?
Tonight, we're
How's it going?
talking the truth behind pricing, why being the lowest doesn't mean being the smartest, and how to build a business that doesn't run you into the ground.
So grab a drink, hit that like button, and if you're not subscribed, forget about it.
Let's get it rolling. Kevin,
Hello.
welcome to the show, brother. How are you,
Hey,
man?
man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. So, welcome to the show. I want to say a quick shout out to everybody in the chat. We got my man Richard in the house. We got Junk Off Steve from Washington. And we got royalty in the house. We got the queen of junk, Denise Sparks in the house.
Oh, what's up? What's up, Denise? What's
We
up,
got
everybody out there? Hey, what's happening? Thank you for tuning in.
North Bay Junk Removal Ignacio in the house. What's up, my man? Hell yeah, brother. And we got Andrew Thompson from Autopilot. What's up, Andrew? How you doing, bro?
Yes, Mr. Autopilot himself.
And guys, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to No Limit Hauling. I believe you got a big interview coming out tomorrow. That is right with
Yeah,
Andrew Thompson.
we're dropping interviews dropping Sunday, and tune into it. And it's just a sit down one on one with Andrew Thompson.
I love it, man. I'll be tuned in for sure. So, Kevin, want to get into the topic of the night, man. The truth behind junk removal, customer service, and premium pricing. So, first, I just want to get into a little background. I know we're going to repeat ourselves a little because I've had you on so many times and I've had you tell your story and all. But for those guys that might not have heard it and all, kind of give us a little background of your foundation in junk removal. I know you worked with some of the big boys, the big franchises and all. Just fill us in on all that.
Yeah, I worked for 1-800 Got Junk in the Atlanta area for over 10 and a half years. I was the general manager there before I left and, started on my own. But
Very, very nice, man. And after that, I see you went and started your own junk removal company. That's Survivor Junk Removal.
yeah.
So, kind of tell us, like, what made you go and open up your own? How come you didn't stick with the franchise way?
Um, you know, I was there for a long time and, the first 7, 8 years of it was kind of like this slow creep up, and then you know, as you guys know, after I was diagnosed with cancer and, went through a lot of, healing process after that, I decided to change the way I do everything. I decided that I couldn't do everything just, minimal as we were doing, that slow creep that we were doing with the business. Something had to change. I had to find my own purpose. So that's when I started developing myself as a leader. And after seeing how well that worked and seeing how it helped the bottom line of the business and how watching that business grow, I started developing my team as leaders as well. I everything that I wanted to leave behind as a legacy, I did. I moved people forward into other franchises. I started my own training and development that ended up being used at multiple locations of 1-800 Got Junk. Right now, I mean, uh, 20 at the end of 2024, their top 20 ranked franchises, 17 of those 20 franchises use my training. I
Wow.
think in total it's close to 30 right now. But, that's, and now, I created a huge legacy there. And then after, we were ranked when I left, we were ranked number one in the entire 1-800 Got Junk. Number one top performer. We won franchise of the year. hitting that number one spot was like my ultimate goal. And, as and I went to Dallas to accept an award, that following February and everything. And then right after that, I got this phone call from my mom, and, she was letting me know, hey, just letting you know, your brother also has cancer. Right. So, and we got into this deep conversation about, what do I have, you know, I know my time is short because I also have Lynch syndrome, which makes me highly susceptible to other cancers. The same as my father, and my grandfather, all my uncles. So I knew my time is short, and we talked about that in great detail. And she just kind of reminded me there was a lot of things that I wanted to do on my bucket list. My time was short. There was more things I wanted to do. I always wanted to start my own business because I tried many times in the past and failed miserably. I wanted to write a book because I'm a really good writer. I love writing. That was one of my biggest passions since I was a little kid. And I tried writing books throughout the years, failed miserably. Um, and there was just so many things I wanted to do, and I just had this whole bucket list I wanted to do. So I decided, I've created this legacy here for this business. Now it's time to create my own legacy. So that's when I left and started my own business.
That is amazing, man. And not only did you leave and start your own business, you went in and got your goals. You went and wrote a couple of books. You're an author.
Yeah,
Leading with
that's kind of my plus one. I had this thing called the plus one mindset, right? My goal, I had the three goals. I mentioned this last year at the Junk Expo. My three big goals I had were to start my own business, to write a book, and to speak and tell my story in front of a large audience, right? So I started my business. I wrote my first book. I went to the Junk Expo, told my story in front of the whole audience. Because let me tell you, I have terrifying stage fright. So that was a big goal for me to actually stand on that stage and tell my story. And you were there, Paul, and you were there too, Rudy. You guys saw I was nervous as fucking hell during that time, but I got there and I told my story. But I have this plus one mindset. I'm like, okay, I achieved my goals, but it's not about external validation. I wanted to prove to myself that I actually earned it. So I went out, wrote another book. I did another, I went to the Mindset Matters leadership conference and told my story again, and then I started another business, the Junk Evolution. We're helping other junk removal companies. So, it's, to me, it's that always that plus one. I have to do everything plus one. If I do it and I achieve it, I have to prove myself that I actually fucking earned it and that I can do it again. So that's just kind of always been my mindset, is that plus one mindset.
You
well,
definitely have a resume, Kevin, and you're definitely a leader in the game. And I think a lot of our viewers out there who are present and who watch this a little bit later on can definitely learn a lot from you. And I suggest you guys reach out to Kevin. And you know what I mean. He's there, and he's spitting that game while he's here, because we're only on this planet for a limited time. So get at Kevin.
and get over to Amazon, guys, and let's support Kevin out here, and let's get that Leading with Purpose book and Leading with Grit. That is definitely something you guys could get value out of, and also help out Kevin. Also, I also want to bring up is I always look at Kevin as like the customer service king. Like any kind of question I have with customer service, I'm going right to Kevin Hess. He is like the guru. He made 1-800 got junks system practically, So if you want to take advantage of that, Kevin has just made a new website, and it's the Junk Evolution. And this is made for other junk removal companies. And it's a place where you could get coached by Kevin. He's got so many great blogs that he puts out on a daily basis. Like, if he sees any big questions going around the industry, right after that, you could expect a blog to answer those questions. And also really strongly encourage everybody to get over to Junk Evolution. Go check out the website. It's got so many resources on there, and just great value that you would want to bring to your junk removal game. Also, guys, we did mention the Junk Expo going down October 24th and 25th. I want to make mention of that. We have 12 outstanding speakers going to be there. Sonoma Strong is doing it again. They got 2-day event this time. I mean, the tickets are just so cheap for the value that you're getting. $250. You're getting a learning experience that can't be matched. So definitely get in touch with Matt and JoJo. Get your tickets over there before they sell out. Definitely one of those places that you just want to come, network, learn, just be a sponge that day. Just so much great info going around that day.
Absolutely. And if you guys are a little nervous to get a hold of Matt and JoJo, which they're the nicest people in the world, you can actually, we have the link on our social media too, where you can get a ticket on our links also. So, you can get a ticket to the Junk Expo so many ways.
And also, I'll attach in the description. We'll put the Junk Evolution website in there so that everybody could get over there and check that out. And also for the expo tickets, I will put a link in the description as well. You guys click that link and it'll hook you guys up, and you guys could get your tickets over there. So now I want to get into really jumping into what makes world class customer service, Kevin. And I want to start off from the very beginning for when a customer calls you, how that should be handled.
When it comes to customers, the one thing that most junk removal companies fail at, and I've done a lot of training on this with other junk removal companies, and the first thing I do is I start a role play with them, and I tell them to role play with me your first interaction with the customer, and it's always the same thing. Hey, how are you doing? My name is Kevin. Where's your junk? Being straight transactional is how you're going to fail. You have to build a relationship with that customer. From the very first phone call when they call you to book that job through, or if they book online, you're giving them a phone call to welcome them. Hey, I appreciate you booking with us, and start building that rapport with that customer right away and start building that relationship. Because when you set foot in their door, they're already going to know you. They're already going to trust you, especially if it's you that they talk to, and most of us, we're the ones that are answering the phone. So they already know us, and that's also a good idea. Even if you have somebody else answering the phone and booking the job, you calling and introducing yourself ahead of time, doing that welcome call. And then either yourself or you have a truck team going out to the customer that day, 15 to 30 minutes before their window, have them give the customer a call, letting them know they're on their way. They start to know your truck team, and it starts building that trust and that relationship right away. Cause that's what it's all about, is building that relationship with that customer. Because once you set foot in that door, you already got that trust, and people buy from people they trust. It makes things a lot easier to close that job. Because if you're going in there straight transactional, it's up in the air whether you're going to get that job, depending how desperate they are. But that adds value to you, and that bringing that value is what's going to help you close that job out.
So, what do you see that newbies make the biggest mistake when they answer that call? I know what you're saying. They go transactional right away. Give us an example of how a newbie could go about it a different way.
When you the first thing I do is, I know it's a very unpopular opinion in this industry, especially with the newer or smaller junk removal businesses, is giving prices over the phone or giving prices through text messages. I mean, yeah, if it's a single item, that's one thing. But, if they got, like, all right, well, I have, a whole garage full of stuff. Can you send me a price? Yeah, send me a picture, then there's no place in there to show the value of your service. So that's the biggest mistake a lot of people make, is just doing that. And to them, in their mindset, is that, oh, it saved them time from going out and driving up there for nothing. If you're going out there and you're not going to close that job, then you're probably doing it wrong anyway. You're not showing the value. You're going in there straight transactional, just like you were on the phone call. You have to build that relationship with them. Start building rapport, before you even start talking about junk. Just find out what kind of project they're working on, finding out why they're getting rid of their junk, because that's the important thing. That whole rapport building process, you start off with relational rapport, just kind of getting to know them. They get to know you. Then you go into that relevant rapport. That relevant report is finding out why they're getting rid of that junk. If you can find out why they're getting rid of that junk, and you save that information in your brain or in your Batman utility belt, so when you start giving that price and giving that estimate, you remind them of that value that they told you about. Right? So if that makes sense to you guys, if you find out, hey, I'm getting rid of, what I asked them what kind of project they're working on. They're telling me that, hey, I'm trying to get this bedroom cleaned out. We've been kind of using it as storage for years and just kind of cluttering it up in there. And, my wife's getting, I've been kind of procrastinating because my wife's pregnant and she's doing like 2-3 weeks. And I've been procrastinating. I got to turn this room into a nursery. So I find out 2 different value keys there. 1, time. They're in a hurry. They need it done fast. 2, they need their space back. So when I'm giving them that estimate, I'm reminding them, hey, it's going to be this much volume. It's going to cost this much. And that I'm not going to pause and wait for them to like, oh yeah, that's too much money. I'm going to remind them, hey, it's going to be this much money. I'm going to get that space cleared out of here. We're going to be done in about 45 minutes. And, you're going to start painting the walls and building that crib before your wife even gets home. So now they're thinking about the value instead of thinking about the price.
I
Because
like that
pricing is
you're reminding them of why they called you originally. So, when you
exactly.
hit them with that price, sometimes they might get that shock, but you're also you're easing it off by taking the problem that they originally called you for off the table, and that
Yeah,
usually
pricing is
closes the
only an
deal.
issue if they're in the absence of value.
And Kevin, would you recommend all this that you just mentioned in person or over the phone?
You start the rapport building process over the phone, building that trust when you get there. So that way you can get your foot in the door. If you're giving prices over the phone or through pictures and text messages, they're never going to see your value.
They never get to know
Get your
you.
get your foot in the door. Even at 1-800-GOT-JUNK, as we're doing just in one location, we're doing 50 to 70 jobs every single day. Right? Can you imagine that? That's a lot, right? You guys, that would be like amazing. Now imagine every time we set our foot in those 50 to 70 jobs, closing 95% of those. Can you imagine that? That's from building that rapport with them and building that value and showing that value. And that's what I was teaching, and that's why our franchise was the highest performing franchise in the entire world. Because of that, our guys were trained very, very well to, show that, establish the value of our service.
So Kevin, what is the time period of something like that take to train the right employee? Somebody who just filled the application out, you guys went over it, and then you bring this person on. How long does that process take until he's trusted
It,
with that system?
it depends on the person because, with 1-800-GOT-JUNK, one thing I'll tell you guys right now, because I know that I hear a lot of people talking about it. Everybody thinks that every single location of 1-800-GOT-JUNK, the whole 175 locations that they have, all operate the same. That is not the case. They all have different prices. They all have different ways. Most of the locations are run by people who have no experience whatsoever in junk removal. They're just people who had other businesses and invested in this franchise, whatever, so everybody does everything differently. The 1-800-GOT-JUNK corporate office suggests how to do things. They have a suggested training, which is a 10-day training period, and it's like a 2-page different thing, and that's what we use for many years. Most of them is like, yeah, forget that. Jump in the truck, learn from that guy. He does it pretty good. I changed that up, and my training, probably depending on the guy, it could be anywhere from 2 to 3 months, because I'm training on every single level, doing role play scenarios from one level. Once he hits that mark, he moves on to the next one and next one, and then there's 5 different levels that they have to pass, and then I certify them. So, once they coming in, they're hungry to learn. They're hungry to, they want to do that role play because that's going to help them level up. So every time we hit that role play, we throw as many curveballs. We make it challenging. We don't make it easy.
So give me
We're
an
not just throwing them
example
in
of
that truck.
give me an example of what you're doing during the role play. Like, how do you make it hard and challenging for them?
We're role playing, I'll play the customer, and then I'll have somebody else observing or whatever. I'll play the customer. I'll give them no after no after no, no matter what they throw at me. I'll be an asshole to them. I'll do whatever it takes, trying to get them to get a yes out of me. So, if they're telling me oh man, that's too much money. So they'll go and they know how to handle those objections because they've learned how to handle those objections and how to do it right, so that I turn that no into a yes. And, I'll, even if they try harder, I'll like, you know what, that's still too much money. I only wanted to pay this much. That's all my budget I have. Then they start getting into the, objections, scenarios where they start, going down the negotiation protocol, I called it. And first reestablish the value of the service, then they'll offer a coupon, for like $25 off or whatever, $25 to $50 off. Then they'll try to prioritize, because sometimes if they can't afford to do the whole job, right? So maybe they have a whole garage clean out, it's going to cost $1,000, but they only got $500 in their budget. Am I going to, if they say no, I can't afford $1,000, most junk removal companies were like, okay, bye, go kick rocks, I'm out of here. We're trying to get something on that truck. They got 500. They just told me they have $500. I'm going to try to leave with $500 worth of stuff. So I'm going to prioritize, the big, heavy, hard to get rid of items. Like, hey, you got these big items here. We're going to take that, and, we'll get that up to your budget, and we'll load that up, make it real easy. That way you don't have to worry about it. The smaller stuff, you can bag it up, put it little by little into your trash cans, or if you want, we'll roll over the pricing. And, if you call us back within the next 30 days, we'll just keep the volume going from there and just roll over that price. That way, wait till you get it financially ready to get rid of the rest. But right now, we'll take up to your budget right now and get that heavy, hard to get stuff out. So even if they don't call us back for the other stuff, we got something in that truck. I'm not leaving without something.
So
I'd
now,
rather get $500 than nothing.
so now the employees are trusted to make that judgment
Oh,
calling in
100%.
without calling
100%.
into dispatch or say, hey, they only want to charge me this. So another question I have, as far as the employer you used to work with, does that employer give deals? Do they give deals and say, hey, we can do this for this or that? And if a customer's trying to, lowball them, does 1-800-JUNK give deals?
Some do, some don't. Some will like, whatever, I don't care. They'll get something, but there's a whole art to negotiating, right? It has to make sense, of course. If they're telling me everything's in the garage, it's going to take 10 minutes to do it. If it's $500, the customer says I only have $300. I know damn well they're planning on paying from $400 to $450. So that's just the way negotiation works. You're going to start off the lowest amount. They're willing to pay $400 to $450. So they'll say, hey, you know what, I got a coupon here that we usually send to our customer, our returning customers. I'll apply it right now. We'll knock off $50 on that, and we'll get you down to $450. Oh man, you know what, I still can't do it. And then he'll call the operations manager, and sometimes they'll just pretend to do it because they're actually good at this and doing that negotiation. They'll pretend to get on there, and they'll tell them, hey, look, I'm going to call my boss right now. If I can get this done for $425, if I can convince him to do it for $425, would you be good for this? Yeah, you know what? Absolutely. So I'll go. They'll pretend to make a phone call to the operation manager.
Yeah.
Sometimes they will. And they're like, hey, you know what? Everything's right there in the garage. It's going to take me 10 minutes. I can get it done for $425. Do it. It's within our profit margin. We're still going to make out like bandits on this. So now that truck team member, guess what? You come back, great news. I got him to agree to it. So now that truck team member looks like a hero to that customer. We still got a good amount of money. And everybody's happy.
I love it. So give me what's the biggest customer service no in the industry for a newbie?
The biggest, well, the biggest customer service is definitely, being straight transactional. That's where you're going to lose. You're going to lose so much. I've heard so many people tell me that they think they're doing great and they're, closing 50, 60, 70% of the jobs they've put their foot in. To me, that's failing, and they think that's the standard because that's what everybody else is doing. But that's because they're being straight transactional. They're not building. Like I said, you can easily close 95% of your jobs if you learn how to handle the customers, you learn how to deal with the customers, and you learn how to build that rapport and that relationship with the customers. That, to me, the biggest no-no is that being straight transactional instead of relational.
Now, I got to ask you this, Kevin. So, occasionally you get that phone call of somebody, that just sends you the picture right away, and they just want to hear a price, no matter what. I try doing everything I can to get in person in front of them and all, and you just they got two things in the picture. So, you've went back and forth with them so much that now it's probably, if you keep saying you're not going to give them a price, you're just being a dick right now. How do you go and
Yeah.
handle that?
Then you tell them, hey, look, okay, so, you know, looking at this picture, if it's just two items, that's no big deal. You can figure it out. You know what you're doing. But if they send you a picture and they just really, really push on that and say, hey, you know, I just looking at it, it's hard to tell with pictures. You can never give an accurate estimate on that. My guess it would be around this whatever volume, but it's better if I show up and take a look at it in person because it might end up being less. I constantly have customers where I overbid it over the picture, and when I show up, it ends up being less. It could also be more, but I don't want to give you the wrong impression and give you a price higher than what it actually is. So, and that usually will calm them down. And most of the time, if they're just really, really pushing on it, that's probably they're looking for the cheap guy anyway. So
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Now, I want to go and kind of change direction right now. And this is more towards the new guy looking to get in the junk industry. And, they have an option. They could go franchise or they could go, their own thing. What do you recommend since you've seen both ways?
most of the new guys out here, you're gonna have to build it from scratch. Not everybody has the funds to go franchise because you have to have serious cash to get a franchise. And that's why all the franchises out there are owned by businessman. They have their own business somewhere else. They've done very well or inherited a bunch of money or, whatever they've done in the past. They want to try something different, or they already have several businesses and this is a new investment for them. So they have, lots of cash because it's going to cost you several $100,000 to whatever, depending on where the franchise is, whatever. But you have to have at least $1 million in the bank too. You know,
So, so what do you think about Ricardo franchising and all
that's
those? Is that
that's
like $1 million in the
that's
bank?
that's a weird process. That's not even a franchise. That's
Okay,
basically
okay,
that's more of a sponsorship.
okay.
Basically using his name, which frankly, the people that he does his sponsorships with probably utilize his why do I got balloons flying? But they do a better job at using his name than he does. He's
Okay.
got a great logo, he's got a great brand going for him, but he doesn't even use it except on his website. And occasionally he'll wear a shirt that has it on it. His guys actually have it on their trucks. They do a good job. It's a great logo, great name, great brand. I don't know why he doesn't even utilize his own brand, but the other people do that he sponsors. So it's
So,
basically like Charlie said,
Charlie
that's
says,
licensing, not franchising.
yeah, we got Charlie in the room, guys, and I want to quick shout out to everybody in here. We got Julio in the house. We got my man
Julio,
Cisco.
Cisco,
Ignacio's in the house.
Ignacio,
Matt Vick over at Sonoma Strong.
Matt Vick.
We got our man Charlie in the house as well. So, okay, this is what I wanted to know. So, what do franchises do better than independents?
with franchises, you have a support system. You have the corporate office there. They have their own marketing team. They have their own, advisors on everything, brand awareness, marketing, financial, all the way down the line. You have a support system behind you. And that's why, their franchising fees are, whatever money you make, you're paying them out like 17, 18% of every penny, that every dollar that you make, because they have that support system for you. So that's the only difference. You already have a recognized brand. That's what you're buying, right? A brand that everybody already recognizes.
And
Um,
let me ask you, Kevin, when you say support system, meaning do you have like somebody that you could pick their brain, kind of like a coach on hand all the time that helps you out?
yes,
You have teams
yes.
of people with marketing and
You
all
have
the
a whole
bells and whistles.
marketing and brand awareness team. You have, uh, you know, for every territory, there's a guy that's there to help you. Any advice that you need, he's there to give you that support. There's a whole line of people there to give support
Any
in
situation you're in.
any situation that you have.
Now,
They have a commercial team, that helps with, depending on what direction you want to go when you're getting commercial jobs. They just all the way down the line, there's a huge support system that they have.
now, as far as what it costs to, get in franchise and pay all those fees and all that, would it make more sense just going and paying a coach and just going independent then? Or is it just all
Probably.
the resources that you're getting with the franchise on top of the coaching?
Well, like I said, it all depends on what you want to invest into it. You can start your own, you can invest in a business coach. You're going to do great. Like I said, they're mostly paying for the name and the support system, because that brand is already recognized throughout the world. So, that's what you're buying. That's why you're getting that, paying that 17, 18% on top, everything else. Plus you're paying for marketing, plus you're paying for this and that and that. But
Denise has a comment right here. Like she says, franchises are like HOAs. In my opinion, too many rules on dictating what you can and cannot do. I've owned a franchise prior.
yes,
Yeah.
they're very picky. And if you don't follow the rules, they can fine you. They can take away your franchise. In the Atlanta area, I always mention that there's 3 different franchises. At one point, there was 4. There was a smaller one, and that guy was doing some shady shit, and he got caught. He was doing jobs off the books, not paying those franchises fees, and just pocketing all the money. It was a smaller location, and they found out about it, and they said, "You have 2 choices. We either take that franchise away from you, and you lose everything, or you sell it at a pennies on the dollar to the franchise that's closest to you," which was the one that we were at.
Wow.
He was forced to sell it to us for pennies on the dollar,
Wow.
because they were like, either that or we take it away from you.
That's crazy. So I want to move on now. We have the topic of the night, and I came up with this topic, and it was why lowest price ain't the winning play. And I got this idea from I was watching a video of Ricky. I think it was like 2 days ago. Ricky put it out on his channel, and I believe the title is "The Truth About Junk Removal Pricing: Why High Prices Miss the Mark." And I started listening to it, and I just was like in shock at what he's saying on there. I couldn't even believe it. That the first thing I did was I sent you the clip, and I was like, bro, would you like to be a guest on? I think you are the perfect person to answer back to this and all. So yeah, you got to watch the video. Mr. Yee, did you get to see that video that I'm talking about from Ricky?
I got to indulge in the video.
So what's your guys' thoughts before I say anything? What's your guys' thoughts on that?
I think it's funnel. I think it's getting a lot of people to funnel to his channel. And who isn't going to watch somebody talking crazy and just saying, how in the F are you even doing this? How are you staying in business? What the F? Are you crazy? I think it's a marketing tool. And I can't even speak no more on that.
I want to ask everybody in the chat, what's your thoughts? Because I'm going to sum up, the video real quick before we hear from Kevin. And what Ricky was saying in there was, the truth is that the only thing that really matters to people, no matter who you are, is the lowest price. And he was just like, it doesn't matter. We're doing junk removal. You could go to a millionaire. It doesn't matter. All that millionaire is going to do is pick the cheaper price and all. And when he's saying this, what's going through my mind is then, how is 1-800 Got Junk the king? They are the most expensive. Everything's about the brand. And I mean, I see some of their prices, and it's almost like double the price of what others in the area are charging. You know what I mean? And I also just heard you say earlier on our interview that they're servicing 50 to 70 jobs a day. So something is not right in Ricky's logic there. And
Well, maybe not in my area, 50 to 70 jobs a day. Maybe
No,
not
in
in
every
my
area. Not in
area.
every area. No,
Because I see them parked at Safeway all the time.
Yeah, here's the thing, guys. In Ricky's words, the true value of the service is the price. And I'm going to tell you right now, that is, if you're listening, Ricky, that is complete and utter bullshit. If that's your mindset, you're going to fail right off the bat. If you believe that the value to the junk removal customers that we use is pricing, then you're going to fail. That's the way, I talked about what real value is to the customer. The value is your solution to them. The real value lies in your experience, your convenience, the trust, your professionalism, and and that's what the customer receives, and that's what they're looking for. They have a challenge and they're looking for a solution. That's the value you give to them. That's what they pay for. Pricing is not the value. And he's talking about even these rich folks, that's the value to them is the price. Bullshit. How many rich people you see driving around fucking Honda Accords? Okay. They're going to be, if they have a choice between a Honda Accord and a Mercedes C-Class, what do you think they're going to pick?
Also,
Why is that? Why are they going to pick it? The quality, the craftsmanship, the reputation.
customer
And that's what it's
service.
about. It's the reputation of the company. They want that quality. They'll pay for quality.
I want
That's
to
why
give
they're
an
not driving.
example too, because I know he was giving out a bunch of examples of why he was right and all, but I want to give, the other side also. As far as when you go to like, where you're getting commercial accounts, with the realtors, the HOAs, and your commercial clients, they're more concerned about the trust, you having insurance, showing up on time, rather than saving a couple of dollars. You know what I mean?
It's the convenience that you can give to them and that peace of mind. That's what's important to them, that you can do it professionally without damaging their property. The money is not as important to those commercial clients. Believe me, I used to freaking charge them more than I would my residential customers, and they would pay it because of the convenience that I offer them. The reputation that we had as a company, we had professionals out there taking care of it. So, to me, yeah, if you're not establishing the value of your service, then yeah, pricing is going to be the only value to them. But
But
and that's where
the
we're going to
problem
fuck
with
up.
the problem with that is what I see is now if price is the main value, you're going to lose every time that a crackhead down the block that's willing just to go get his next fix. So
Yeah.
Ricky, if that's if that's what you're trying to do is the lowest price wins, so then how come the crackhead isn't the king of junk removal in the area? Because he's willing to go lower than anybody else. Now the other problem that I see, and I think Ricky's kind of experiencing it. Ricky's been in 18 years. I don't really see much scaling going on. I see him doing the licensing and all that, what he's doing, but I don't see scaling. And the reason why I don't see scaling is what you're doing to yourself is your
Yeah.
prices are too low. There's no room to scale. There's no margins for growth. So
Yeah.
that's why you're doing the same thing for 18 years, running
Think about
around
it
like a
this way.
chicken with no head.
Think about it this way. I saw a video that he posted one time a few months back, and he was bragging about doing 5 to 6 jobs a day. And I'm like, if you're only doing 5 to 6 jobs a day after 18 fucking years, there's a problem. I don't know I don't know his story. Maybe years ago he was doing it at a higher level, blah blah blah, and decided, you know what, I'm done. Just, I'm just going to do the bare minimum, whatever. He 18 years, he does no branding. Even though he's got a great brand, he doesn't utilize it. If he's only doing 5, 6 jobs a day after 18 years, then he's definitely not doing something right. And we shouldn't be taking his advice on anything, to be
I,
honest.
I
Well,
agree.
I seen on one of his videos, I think the latest video was that he's talking and mentioning a lot of people are like I think he said, which was nice, casting the net. And a lot of people are casting the net to get those bigger jobs in those bigger areas with the richer people who have more money. And he said a lot of times people are, their phone's not ringing because they're targeting a certain job, a certain price, a certain area. But his phone is ringing so much because he targets the low income areas
Yeah, well, you
that
got to
do.
target everything.
But I'm just saying that
Yeah.
that's what he said, that he's like, I don't care what you guys do. I'm targeting the low income areas. So therefore the $45 refrigerator removal might be working with him on that angle when you're targeting
But
the
what
low
he's
Yeah.
income
But
what
areas.
also
he's
remember,
targeting, he's targeting also the price shoppers. You're literally going and just going prices all that matters. And you also got to remember, which he doesn't understand or see at all, when he's filming, when he goes up to these clients and the way that he talks to these people, that's right there the worst thing that you could do to somebody.
Are
You
we to
see the
believe that?
lack of professionalism. I mean, it's insane. I just watched like a video, I think it was like a couple days before that, where he had the customer actually loading his van up for him and was kind of like clowning him, and I'm just like, is this really going on right now? So it's like, I don't think he even sees it being a problem. I don't realize that he doesn't think, it's not professional at all. He insults his clients, which I would never do. It's the stuff that I see. It's like everything that I would think that Kevin would teach in a franchise not to do. Watch this guy, watch this video, and do not ever do anything he ever does on a job site, because you will be instantly fired. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
remember, this guy's in a a major metropolitan city here, Dallas Fort Worth, and 18 years, and he's only doing this amount in this huge fucking city. That's, I mean, Jesus, I live out in the fucking country and I do better than that. So it's like, I don't know what to think. It blows my mind. I don't know what the hell's in that guy's head. I don't know, he's a little touched or what's going on, but
It's the
I,
ego, man. It's I see some people, the ego, it kicks you in your own dick. Excuse my language, but I believe that's what it is, man. Like he gave an example today of a job that he made. It was one of the commercial jobs, and I think it was on the mastermind that he put out. And he was saying how he underpriced the job just to get the job, and that it wasn't worth it at the end of the day. And I'm just there scratching my head, like, what was the purpose of doing it? What did you gain from that besides just burning yourself out? You got like a ridiculous garbage job. I mean, I think it was like 70 yards to the elevator, and then from elevator it was 100 yards to the truck. Like, it was just crazy. And he's like, I kind of screwed myself, taking such a low price on it, but at least I got the job. I'm just like, what are we here to do, man? Is it more of an ego stroke, or are we here to make money? I mean,
well,
business, you're
there's
here to make
that.
money.
I
I mean,
think he
if
I I think maybe he's a very good actor. And I think
I hope that's the case.
a lot
I
of what a lot of what we see, what he does is the big jobs. Yes, I just seen him. He posted, I got the big $17,000 job. Yes, the whole retail store, but you don't see him in action, and you don't see how he hired maybe 5 different haulers that got a cut of the job too. So I don't think, he says he works by himself. We see some work with him with his son, but then a lot of work we don't see. We just hear about, oh, I got this big job, I got this, but how much did you bring home though?
But if you judge by looking back, man, and you just see somebody doing something for 18 years and think they are the king and have figured it all out, and it's like he really hasn't. I mean, you could have did the exact same he did for 18 years, working a union job, never having the stresses of running your own business. Like he took away the whole benefits of having your own business is to really make the money on it rather than having a 9 to 5 job. He made his business more into a 9 to 5 job, and I don't get it, man. With 18 years, and you act like you figured it all out, and you're going around telling everybody that you should lowball. That's the way.
Mhm.
You shouldn't have a logo truck. You shouldn't have uniforms. And then I watched that he has a mastermind group, and they call it the mastermind group, and they let him just go sit there and go on for like an hour saying this bullshit, spewing. And I'm like, is it nobody else realize? Like, wouldn't
Yeah.
you stop him or be like, yo, why am I even in this group, bro? This is no mastermind
And
here.
they're paying him.
Oh no!
Yeah.
That's the worst
Wait,
part.
hold on. I didn't know that whole part. Wait, so they're paying him to be in that mastermind?
Well, that mastermind group is the people that he's licensing his name to.
Yeah, his other franchise or whatever he
Yeah.
says.
So that's the
So
people that are in that mastermind group. They're paying him for his name and for his advice.
I
That's the
think
scary part.
I think 80% of Ricardo's videos is just him rambling. And then 20% is, oh yeah, let me talk about junk removal. So he talks about so many other situations, and who gets up in the morning and just starts talking like that and just recording himself and it's just like, but there's an audience,
Hey,
and
hey, we all hear, we all listen to him, we all tune in every day because you're waiting to see what craziness is he gonna say next. I think
it's
that's
like the
kind of what
Truman
the
Show. It's like the
yeah,
Truman
yeah,
Show. Everybody's
yeah.
watching the Truman Show 24/7, the Truman Show. And it's just like, what's going to happen next?
Yep.
Until reality hits. He crashes into the wall. And you
We got
never
to
know.
catch up on some of these comments. I've been slacking, guys. I'm sorry. We got local junkers. I think that's John over in Arizona. He says,
John.
how many 800 franchises have failed in your experience?
A lot. There's a
A lot.
lot. A lot of
Okay.
them have failed miserably. There's some companies out there like the Kansas City location. They started finding some of those failing franchises and started buying them up and fixing them up and making them better. And even they got to the point where there were so many franchises failing that 1-800 got junk created a whole new business called Flywheel that would buy those franchises from the failing ones, rebuy them, put their own leadership in there to turn them around so they can resell it
Hold on.
at a higher price because
Recycling, huh?
they fixed it. Yeah, basically recycling. They buy it for pennies on the dollars because they're failing miserably. They turn it around and then they resell it again.
Yeah, we see their vehicles up for sale once in a while on the social platforms, and you
One,
see them.
one of the
Yeah.
guys in my area, he went and bought 5 of them, and then
Yeah.
he was only up and running 1 year, and then he's out of business, and they're just sitting there rotting. He's hitting me up all the time trying to get me to buy them and all. Richard says, I think Ricky tells a lot of BS and that he starts to believe it and he doesn't remember what's true and what's not. That could very well be. Denise says, Ricky was the first YouTuber junk removal guru and he has branded his service on bullshit. Bottom line, he has worked for him. We all brand ourselves in all kinds of different ways. That is very good statement right there. Junk on, junk off says it's a luxury service. People that can afford us like quality. I agree with that for sure. And then that's what I keep thinking. Like a couple of my clients over in Marin, they got some crazy $10 million houses. And I'm just thinking of Ricky rolling up there. And it's not so much what he's rolling up in, it's more just the attitude and the things that he says and all that. And
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, yeah, they might pay him that time, but they're never calling him back. I don't think so, man.
Well, it might be the state that he's in that you get away with that, but over here, there's just so many more options. People would just say, "Thank you for coming. Have a good day." And
I
now
don't
you,
know. Texas is a friggin' popping, bro, and you got a
uh,
lot of mega money in Texas, man. So
yeah. But
Yeah,
I think here's a lot more emotions. Our
yeah.
clients are our clients are a lot more.
They
You
get
really
butthurt
got
a lot quicker.
you really got to watch what you say within, or even how you pull your vehicle up. If you pull your vehicle up in the wrong way on somebody's property, hey, I didn't want your shit right there. Hey, your contents fluids is licking on my driveway.
Yep. Could you
Shit.
imagine what Ricky would say? He
Uh
blamed them.
yeah, he
They'd owe
blamed
him
them.
money for that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Your driveway ruined my truck.
Local Junker says Ricky thinks 75% COGS is okay. Oh, wait, he does not talk about KPIs. Yeah, I don't think he's not into the whole number game at all. He don't know, not at all. His entire life is on camera, business and personal ego, perhaps. Yes,
Tr-
major, major,
Truman
major
Show.
ego. He actually
Truman Show.
he said that about me too. He was saying that it was my ego, like I got this huge ego, and I'm like thinking in my head, damn, bro, like if that was one of my weaknesses, I would just straight up say that I'm not that guy. But if I had an ego, bro, I don't think I'd be coming into junk removal, going making all these videos, and you know what I mean. So it just doesn't go together, man, because that doesn't work out. I could see when people have egos in business, they're willing to kick themselves in the nuts and not make the smartest business moves just to get that ego, and I've seen a lot of the top arm wrestlers in the world that, their egos just ruin their wallets. And
Yeah.
I'd see that, I'd be like, how come they're not a millionaire? They got such great character. They got everything it takes. And then I get to know them, and it's the ego that always ruins them, man.
I
Yeah,
like that. I like that, Paul.
there's a great book called Ego is the Enemy. And if I, there's certain times where I want to just ask, I see people on these Facebook groups and I just want to say, hey, what's your address? I'm going to send you this book, because it really is your biggest enemy. Because I've seen so many people that cannot grow and cannot scale because they refuse to learn and, refuse to actually obtain more knowledge because they think they know it all, because their ego gets in their way and they'll never grow. The funny thing is, the ones that, when I started, giving advice to people and I started offering my trainings and coaching and everything else, I was trying to do it for the small guy, for the little guy that's, the newbie, the just starting and everything else. But the people that actually come to me are the guys that are making 7 figures already. Why? Because they're still hungry. Their ego is not getting them. They're still hungry. They want to evolve because they know what got me here will not get me there. So, if their ego, they're going to plateau and they're going to stay there, and that's as big as they're going to get. But these guys are already doing 7 figures and they want to do more. They want to do better. They're still hungry. They know that I need to get to the next level. I need to evolve. And then they call me. My goal here when I started was to help the little guy, but it's the big guys that are coming at me and asking for my advice because they want more, because
Says a
they
lot
learned
about
a
you
long time.
too, bro.
They learned a long time ago that ego is their biggest enemy, and they got rid of that, and that's how they scaled, and that's how they succeeded.
And it says a lot about you that 7-figure guys are coming seeking you. You know what I mean? That's showing that what you're teaching,
You.
yes, teaching is the gold. Oh, Charlie's getting spicy, and Charlie, this is making me think it could be Ricky here, because all of a sudden now it changed. Ricky, Charlie was being nice a minute ago. You all remind me of the movie Mean Girls. Here we go. He's getting spicy. He is getting exactly that attention you are giving him. Yeah, no, Denise, I get it, but he also plays the same game back. Anything that we bring up, it's the next. He won't say the name, but it's the next topic on his show. So we kind of go back and forth with each other. We all know we're watching each other's channels, and we're
And it's very hard for me to believe that haulers call him every day and ask him for advice. And he says, I was talking to this hauler last night. And it's like, when there's so many more people who are putting a dent in the game, especially, going junk expos and type of, these are some people that they should be calling. Kevin's, the junk expo people. There's just the people who are very successful in what they're doing. These are the people you should be reaching out to, not somebody who is driving a convertible Humvee to a job. Imagine if I pulled up, you pulled up in freaking Marin with a convertible Humvee with a utility trailer. It's just, I don't knock the hustle. I don't knock some people got to use what they got to use, but it's just like, first for me, I got to have AC. I'm sorry. It's hot out here in Northern California. It's hot and it just started. But it's just, I think,
It's a look too, man. It's your pride in your business, man. You want that professional. You want to look the top. Why wouldn't you want to look the top? You're going all in. You're trying to bring the best product there is. You want to look the part too. Charlie says, you don't pay to be on the mastermind. Thank you, Charlie, for filling us in. Oh, we got Josh. This is Josh from chapter 2 in Vegas. Is that him, Mr. Yee?
Chapter 2 in Vegas.
What
What's
up,
up? What's up,
Josh?
Josh? What's happening, my brother? Thank you for tuning in.
There you go. There's no mastermind here laughing out loud. He's talking about Ricky, Charlie. This is like the Three Stooges up here, Ricardo. Ain't any better, but you all sound dumb. I love it, bro. Junk on, junk off. Never be an old dog that can't learn new tricks. Hell yeah. California is a liberal cesspool. True that, bro. Invite him to come on is Charlie Ricardo. Yeah, Denise, we've been thinking that, it's one of the guys. It's definitely one of the guys.
Could be a spy. Could be a spy. One of his guys who are just saying, "Hey, you know what I mean? Infiltrate."
Charlie, you want to come on? Would you like to come on? You're more than welcome to come on and join us, and we could debate anything you want. We would love that for sure. So let's get back on track here. I want to kind of go and just fire some questions at Kevin. Anybody in the chat, if you guys got questions, let us know. We definitely want to. We got them here right now. Let's get into the good stuff. Mr. Yee, do you have any questions for Kevin you want to bring up?
Not right now. Just kind of blank. I'm trying to go with the flow, and I think Kevin is.
I got a good one.
Yeah.
What systems separate a 6-figure biz from a 7-figure biz? And I know that you have experience with that just recently, because I know you went in you're helping out John Stromberg from Washington, and that dude is just murdering the junk removal game. So yeah, kind of tell us what's the difference between a 6-figure biz and a 7? What systems are they using? And you could use John as an example if you would like to.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing, systems. You're having systems and processes, because if you don't implement them, it's going to be hard for you to scale later on. You have to have training process. You have truck team members in there. You can't just start throwing them into a truck and say, learn from that guy. That's not scalable. You have to have a process that you can, repeat over and over and over again, so that you can step back. And this is good advice for you, Paul, because, in the future, you've talked about, having locations at the other places that you live and everything else. The one thing that you're going to want to do now is start documenting. Start doing those standard operating procedures, start documenting everything, having those processes and systems in place, track, performance metrics. Those KPIs, those key performance indicators, are very, very important.
Can you give us a list right now? Because, a lot of people, they say they track the numbers, but what numbers exactly in junk removal do we really want to focus in on?
Okay.
I know it's the COGS.
Right. Well, that depends on if you're looking, because most people, when they're looking at it, you have John on here. He's going to, talk about, he talks a lot about COGS and everything else. A lot of that is the business health, right? When you're talking about, your cost of goods served, or cost of goods, you have a lot of different metrics that represent the business health. But what a lot of people ignore is the performance part. And that's okay, because most people are, a lot of people that are listening on here are smaller businesses. They don't have truck teams and everything else. But when you're talking about scaling, you have to be able. If I walked into your business, how many guys do you have, Mr. Yee?
I would say about under 10.
10 guys, that many working
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah, I
Okay.
can. Yeah.
Now, if I
need them.
Okay, if I walked into any one of those guys and I walked up to him and I asked him, how do you measure your success with this, with no limit hauling? What do you think they would answer?
Go talk to Mr. Yee.
Okay.
That's
You know,
exactly what
they
they're gonna
they
say.
should be able to answer that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
having those performance numbers, they need to know where they stand. You know, that's why a lot of people ask me how long do people stay in, you know, how many their truck teams, you know, what's their longevity, you know, it's usually, you know, 2 years or whatever before they burn out because
Mhm.
they don't see a future with the company. They don't see forward momentum, you know, they don't see if you get them and you know, you inspire them to actually want to grow the company for themselves to create that opportunity for that forward momentum, then they're bought into the business and they're bought into your growth. You know, so you giving those numbers, you know, the average job size is a great one to track. You know, your revenue per hour, you know, you can even go as hard as revenue per mile. There's so many different
There's
metrics
one
you
of
can
those I
use.
got to stop you at. The average job size. This thing I took from you that was whole next level from what most people say. You were said it was 70% of your full load price should be what you're shooting for. Is that correct? That's the number that you say.
Yes, but I'm going to tell you something right now, and a lot of the larger companies probably won't agree with me, and I don't care. You know, this is my opinion because I've done the research and I've put it into action over years. You know, really, if you really want to dial in, is not don't just track the AJS, the average job size, because a lot of that can get skewed if you have a lot of big commercial jobs, right? If you really want to get dialed into your business, track the residential average job size. Do it like, maybe 65, 66% of your full load rate. If you can get your truck team to hit that at a regular basis, all those other metrics will fall into place. All the business metrics, your gross, profit, everything is going to fall into place if you can keep that residential average job size at least 66% of your full load rate.
That would be amazing. Oh my God, I'm
You
thinking the
know,
numbers in my head.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you crunch those numbers, if you can do that, and if they're not doing that, figure out how to do that. Start training your team how to do that. You know, the one thing that a lot of people overlook when it comes to going to these jobs is what I call FMJ, find more junk. And I train my teams to find more junk, and I start that on the call ahead, right? When I'm calling a customer, the first thing, I'm telling them, hey, I'm on my way. We're going to be there in about 15 minutes and everything else. But I just want to remind you, we are a fully licensed and insured company, and we can go anywhere in your house. And then I start naming off places like the attic, the crawl space, the garage, basement, backyard. And the one that my favorite place is the shed, because people forget about their sheds and the crap that they have loaded in there. So you start talking about that, then they're going to start thinking about it. And this is especially true when you're talking about like single item jobs. You're going to pick up a sofa. That's that sofa is the project. You know, they have a new sofa coming in, so they're getting rid of the old one. Or that mattress that you're picking that up because they got a new one coming in. That's the project. That's all they're thinking about. 99% of those people have more junk, but that's not the project they're thinking about. So you remind them that you can go and handle that stuff for them. Now they start thinking about it. By the time you show up, they're like, hey, I know you mentioned you can check this out. I have my husband's been promising me to get rid of this crap out of the basement for the past 9-10 months, and he keeps procrastinating. Do you mind taking a look at it? Yeah, absolutely. I might have gone in there for a $150 couch, but I'm leaving with a full truckload now because I'm getting
So
shit out of the basement too. And that's,
so now
you have to look for more junk.
so now, Kevin, we're talking about a team and your crew and everything. What about for those guys out there who are a single man team?
The same thing applies. You
Okay.
know, teach yourself how to do these jobs at a higher level, how to
Mm-hmm.
close those jobs. I have a training for that teaching them how to do that, to build that rapport with customers, how to, find more junk at jobs, how to, have that different mindset of not just straight transactional, you know, it,
And Mr. Yee,
these
I got to
things.
say, all this works. So, I mean, everything that he's saying, I'm practicing and trying. And, I'll get one part of it down and then I'll add another part of it. And it's like, it's just the more I say it, the more it just comes natural, and the more flow. It's coming a recording in my head, and just
Absolutely.
adding another part to it each
Up,
time.
absolutely upsell. Some of us are born with this. Some of
Yeah, and
us,
that's
I
the
walk
thing.
in houses and see so many things I can help somebody with. I have a habit of saying, yes, I can do that. And I got to stop myself from saying, no, I can't do, no, you know what, ma'am, I can't do that. I got a guy, but I got to stop myself so much from saying yes,
Yeah, you
because
walk
that's
up
how,
and you see a pile of branches, that they did some yard work on the side of their house. Hey, while I'm here, I can take care of that for you. But to me,
so
when I hear a single item, somebody calls me to pick up just one single item, to me, I'm like, challenge accepted. I'm going to walk out of there with something else. I'm going to try my damnedest to get something else out of there. And they're the easiest ones to upsell. You just have to have that mindset where you're asking them, and reminding them, especially on that call ahead. That's the best place
way
to
to
plant
start.
that seed. When you show up, they show you, okay, we're looking at this, and this, and everything else. I'm like, all right, cool. Like I mentioned before, we can go anywhere in your house. If you have anything else while we're loading this up, if you can think of anything else that you want, we'll take care of that for you. But
now
here's the kicker. Here's the kicker, though. None of that is going to work if you're straight transactional, like I mentioned before. If you're in there, where's your junk? They're just wanting to get rid of you. Here's the stuff. This is the transaction. Okay, get it, go, buy. Here's your money, go. But if you're building that relationship with them, now they're trusting you so much, they want to give you more. They want to be able, they say, hey, you know what? This guy's awesome. I do have some more stuff. And you remind them, and later on down the road, if they see you doing this job, you're about 75% done with the job, and they see how you're working, you're loving your job, you're still talking to them, building rapport, building that relationship for them. Now they start thinking, now they see value in you. And they're like, hey, you know what? I do have that other stuff that I needed to get rid of. Let me just take care of it now.
and that's all
Local
by getting
Junkers,
your foot in the door.
Local Junker says, Kevin, you have a lot of insight. What is a good daily call volume truck? What is a good call close rate? So a close rate, you were saying 90-95%, right?
On-site close rate, you're getting that
Okay.
conversion. I think John's talking about, the actual phone call. That's a tough one, because that, there you're definitely going to get some tire kickers, that's going to happen. You're not going to close all of them, but if you can close probably 60-70% of the people that actually call in, then you're doing good. You probably want to shoot for a higher number, but if you're going to try to get, that's why it's important to get your foot in that door, because you can close at a higher rate if you get your foot in that door.
And what is a good daily call volume per truck?
That's going to be business dependent, John. I can't really answer that
Yeah,
without,
because some people have trailers, some people have some box trucks. It's not all just about a truck.
Yeah.
Charlie says, because, oh no, Richard, what a show. Local Junkers, residential, AGS should be 60% of full load. Is that what we shoot for?
Yeah, John,
Average
for
job
me,
sizes. For anybody that don't know, average job size.
yeah, and that's what I was saying, 66% is a good one. A lot of people, it's going to be hard, especially, with the residential. That's why I said, 70 is probably good, fine for the average guy to do it, because, like I said, those commercial jobs will skew it. That's why I said, if you really, really want to dial in, go for that residential, that 66% of that full load rate on that residential, then you're going to get really, really dialed in.
Yeah,
No.
I like that a lot better, man, because I think I heard somebody else in the industry, they were saying something like average job size was like around like 300 or something.
Yeah, that, I think that was, I know that, I think it was the JT Junk Solutions. They were talking about their average job size, and they were talking about it was like 365 and everything. And I'm like, bam, their full truck is $800. That's pretty freaking low. But when it comes to pricing, that's an also, it depends. A lot of people don't structure their pricing correctly, in my opinion, as well. So
Russ is in the building. He says 100% correct. Kevin is on point. More money made on smaller jobs. Hey, Russ. Russ says should never be a single item. That's your foot in the door. Correct with that. And he says, guys, head should be on a swivel. Keep looking around. There's always TV and paint. Laughing out loud.
Oh,
And
trust me, paint can make you. I mean, believe it or not, paint can make you a lot of extra fucking money.
because nobody wants to take it, so you could go and charge
Exactly. So
a lot
you
more.
can charge a lot. You can upsell on that easily because a lot of people are like, remind them, hey, we do take paint. We take the. Start naming off the hard to get rid of stuff. Hey, but just letting you know, we take paint, we take tires, we take, hot tubs, and these are certain things that they think that you probably can't take. And once you start mentioning them, like, oh yeah, a lot of people have, 10, 20 gallons of paint sitting around. That's an extra 100, $200 right there that you could get rid of for free if you mix it with some kitty litter or just put it on Facebook Marketplace. Everybody loves free shit. I get a bunch of paint. I put it on Facebook Marketplace. I got that shit gone in 2 days.
How long does it take with the kitty litter to get rid of?
It depends what time of year it is and how much sunshine you got. You put it in there, you mix it up. You can sit it out in the sun, and it'll do it faster. If it's in the winter, it's going to take longer. But I like to just put it on Facebook Marketplace. People love free shit. They'll load their trucks up with that shit.
Local Junker says, what is your guys' AJS? Should all junk guys know their AJS? Why is it important? Average job size. Mr. E, do you know your average job size?
Oh yeah, my average job size, no doubt. Every time I go in a client's house, I tell myself this is what I want to walk out of here with. This is the minimum. So I'm not just coming
Beautiful.
here. I'm not coming here just for a single item. I'm upselling the shit out of this job. You know what I mean? Someone calls me for a single item. I tell them they could save a lot more money if we add this and add that and add this. And I'll throw you a bundle package. But I already know that bundle package is going to be my average size job.
And do you
that's
teach your guys that?
well, I teach my guys all of that, and they watch me in motion.
Good.
So when
That's the way it should be.
So when I don't go out, they can go out and say, hey, no problem. But it's giving them the trust and learning from their failures also, how
Russ-
they can learn from it.
Russ says, is there anything else you need us to grab? It's cheaper for us to do it now than it is if you call us back. Our minimum charge applies on the next pickup, but since we're here, it would be cheaper.
Yeah, and that also applies when, if you like Russ is saying, if you're structuring your pricing correctly, then a lot of times you can get a lot more stuff there because I see a lot of junk removal companies, their price is basically, if they're doing volume, they're doing it in, even quarters. And it's the same price. It's just divided in, their full truck divided into 4. There's a lot of people that do, square footage, square yardage, whatever bullshit they do, like a contractor. But, if you structure your pricing where you have a higher percentage on the low end, you can make more money because you can get a higher profit margin on, because a lot of people get a lot of small jobs, right?
Yeah.
So, if your full truck is $700, right? What's your half truck going to be? It shouldn't be $350.
Like
That's
500 or,
stupid. Your full truck should be at like 65 to 70% of your full load rate. And that way it makes more sense for the customer to start adding stuff because you tell them, hey, we work like Costco. The more you get, the more you save. So, if I came back here, if my half truck is $450, if I come do half truck now and half truck later, that's $900. You're saving $200 by having me come out here and just doing it all today. And then it makes sense for them to start adding stuff.
Yeah.
Russ says, in New York, we have to pay $4 a gallon as a business. Residents can drop for free. Also, Sherwin-Williams in New York takes it for free. Also, if you're in the north, leave outside in winter and freeze it. Nice.
Yeah. I mean, if you can get that paint dried up, you can just get rid of it normally in any trash, whatever. But there's a lot of restrictions when it comes to paint because it becomes hazardous material. So that's why you can charge extra for it. But then there's things you can do and just be smart about it. You can take it to a paint recycler, but you're going to pay a shit ton of money to get rid of that. And you're going to make a mess of your freaking truck and whatever. But you just have to get creative in the way to get rid of it
Mhm.
and get rid of it responsibly.
Well, a lot of times I think haulers don't do a lot of their homework before they start the business, as in finding where you can drop everything off for free. And everything has a home, so you should
Mhm.
be knowing where to drop TVs off, hazard material off, oil off, dirt off, concrete off. All these places you can drop these things for free. I just picked up a whole trailer load of pallets. And I went and I knew they were good pallets. So I went straight to my pallet place, and I call it Pallets of the Fine Arts, because all they do is take pallets, and he took my whole load absolutely free.
Yeah, and you can take full loads of you can take cardboard and paper,
Yeah, yeah.
and stuff to these cardboard recyclers, and they'll do it
Mm-hmm.
for free, and you drop it off for free.
And I
You
post
have to
this.
go ahead.
Local
No,
Junker says, I could teach you guys how to do AJS. And then he says, total sale divided by number of jobs. Okay. There's the formula right there. And Cisco says, what most people don't know is in California, you can haul up to 15 gallons or 125 pounds of any solid of waste.
So we have bulk drop-offs also out here in California, where you're allowed to go once a month and drop off 15 gallons of paint, car batteries, TVs, so many things that you don't even really realize. But also junkyards, salvage yards will buy your batteries off of you. And recycling places buy batteries off of you. All the motors that you take out of wash machines and refrigerators, all those motors, they buy those off of you. So when you're just dumping those at the landfill wherever you go, you're giving them money, and they're charging you for it.
And Cisco also says latex paint, once it dries and hard, can go in the trash.
yep, 100%.
And Cisco works at Recology 28 years, so he really knows
Yeah,
stuff.
no, he knows his waste management. He knows that stuff here, and I love Cisco.
Yeah, he's the man. JB
Yeah.
Holding says most of the landfills take it for free. It's mainly the transfer station who don't take the paint. In California,
Maybe in your
no
area.
difference. Yeah, it's a little it's tight.
Everybody's cities, states are going to be different.
At one of our transfer stations, you can drop a whole trailer load of electronics off.
Yeah,
No problem. No problem.
see here,
And all the mattresses.
Yeah, we got the electronic thing too. They
Yeah.
have like a
Here,
you just throw it in.
there's no dumps, transfer stations, landfills, anything that will take paint here.
Yeah,
None
see.
of them. Not
Local
even for a
Junker
price.
says we just stopped paint pickup. Started to be a hassle. Does 800 still pick up paint? That's a good question.
It's depends on the franchise. It's up to
Uh-huh.
them whether they do or not. Some do, some don't. It's up to them. I didn't do it. There was a long time where I didn't do it because it just, I got tired of spills and blah, blah, blah. But then, I saw how much money it could bring in, and there was another franchise doing it, and they were bringing in shit tons of money from it. And I'm like, fuck it, let's do it. We got a bigger warehouse now. I got a spot for it. I let it build up. I'll have, 1,000 gallons of paint. I'll put it on Facebook Marketplace. 2 days later, that shit's gone.
Wow. Russ says same with mattress surcharges. Charge the 60 to 150 surcharge, then take back the shop, cut up and put in trash bags and pay nothing. Yeah, I heard about that. And also there's a lot of recycle places that'll take the mattresses for free in my area over here. And then he says AutoZone gives $10 store credit for every battery, where at scrap they pay 6 to 7 each. Oh, that's a good one to know. And
I like
another
that.
one, the tire Mavis tires. I don't know if it's everywhere in my area. If you go there and any of the tires have a rim on it, they'll take it for free, because I guess they got a scrap guy or whatever, so you don't have to pay the fee. Which and I'm talking like tractor tires too. So that's a little loophole that people might not know about. Charlie says, oh, here we go. Rusty Old Bulls forces his employees to cut mattress and box springs apart. I bet your team just loves you. I can only imagine how many dartboards have your face on it around the U.S. And I'm sure Russ is happy to be on all those dartboards as well and doesn't give a shit, Charlie. Sarah and Vinny over here say, we take pretty much anything and never been stuck with anything. Did get a call to take solar panels. We called around, no dump was going to take it, so we declined it. That's an interesting. I never even thought of that. So what's the answer with that, Kevin? Do we know how to handle solar panels?
I've never picked up any, so I couldn't tell you. But if they're in good shape, I mean, if you can't dump them, then just
Use them.
post them
Yeah.
on Facebook for free.
Yeah.
People, like I said, people love free shit. You can, if there's the transfer stations won't take something, the recycling places won't take something, or if they're going to charge you a huge amount for it, then post that shit for free.
Sarah, another place you might look. I know at the transfer station by me, they have a place called Recycle Town, and you can just kind of drop off anything, and it's a nonprofit, and whatever money they do go and sell whatever merchandise they go and they donate it and all. So you might want to check out if you got something like that. I find it like any kind of windows or stuff like that they could use or resell, you could get rid of for free over there. JB Halling says battery place over here pays $5 to $10 a battery. Oh, yeah, it's good to know. Is that universal in most places? Do you guys know?
Yeah,
Batteries?
it just depends on how big the batteries, deep cycles, the bigger, European cars have the bigger batteries than the smaller batteries than the motorcycle batteries. So they're all different sizes. You just got to find that right one who just gives you the most bang for your buck. But hold on to them until you got about 5 or 6, then it's worth. Then you got some lunch money. There you
There you
go.
go. And Russ says we pay $5 to have tires taken off aluminum rims only. They pay 25 to 30 a rim. That's probably why that tire place does that with me, because they're making that money off of that.
Of course.
Different arm wrestling live streams up. I'm bouncing around. Drew, you slacking on me, man? You cheating on me, bro? Nah, it's all cool, bro. When I picked Fridays, I know you got obligations over with the 98. Shout out to the 98, Ryan Gronin, if you're still in the room.
Paul, you're Drew's side chick right now.
Yeah, there you go, man. I feel like I'm getting cheated on over here, man. What are you doing over there? So yeah, I want to finish this up right now. Got a couple other questions I just want to before we call it a night, but I just want to say thank you so much, Kevin. This is one of the most educational interviews that I've had up to date, and I like it. I feel like there's a progression going on between me and you. The longer I get into junk removal, I feel like my questions are getting a little more advanced, a little next level up and all. And, I wasn't sure. I was like, I've had you on so many times. I wasn't sure if we would have new topics and all that. But, I like this, man. We keep evolving. And
Very educational.
Exactly.
That's the whole point about it is evolving. I mean, you have to be able to evolve. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, and that's why I named my website, the Junk Evolution, is because it's all about that evolution and being able to evolve and scale your business. And it doesn't have to be just your business. It could be, your personal life. It could be whatever you have going on in your life. You have to be able to evolve. You have to be able to pivot, course correct, whatever you want to call it. But that evolution is going to help you grow. It's going to help your truck teams grow, because those are the most important part of your business, believe it or not, is those guys that you have there. You develop them, you impact their lives by teaching them how to do something better. Each and every one of you guys listening right now, you sacrifice your blood, your sweat, your tears, everything into this business. You sacrifice your time away from your family. You do all that because you found your purpose. This is your purpose, to do this business and really sacrifice into it. Now, imagine if you got that same thing from your guys. If you give them purpose, they're going to do the same. They're going to be bought into the growth of your business because they see that potential to create new opportunities for themselves. Because if your business grows, they grow, their lives are now impacted because of you. And that's what leadership means. And that's impacting the lives of the people around you.
Hell yeah. And I want to shout out a couple of new people in the chat. We got Sarah Fig, and she just said, I called several recycling places and they wanted to charge us $14 per panel, and there were 134 panels. The client had a budget and it wouldn't be worth it for us or anyone for that matter. What were we talking about with the panels?
Solar panels.
Panels. Yeah, the solar panels.
Gotcha. And then Junk On, Junk Off says, I always take paint for realtors to make their life easier. They love it. That's a big flex, helping them out.
Yeah.
Welcome, Trash Your Junk. Thank you for joining. Cisco says they will take them. The problem is the lithium batteries on them. We take them up here. So if you got solar panels over in Cisco's area, you could get rid of some solar panels over there. Shout out to Sippy Hall. He says, Hesinator, what is up? And my
I think
man
your
Sippy
audio's
is
bouncing. I think your audio's bouncing.
my audio is bouncing.
Yeah.
That sounds good to me.
Okay. Well, it must have been me then.
Clear your ears, ass. The wax
Yeah.
in your ears, bro.
Jesus.
Get it right, huh?
It's the it's the crumble. It's the crumble. It's the wax in my ears. It's the crumble. It's
Charlie
just
says, and for only $9.99 a month and rights to your firstborn, I will make you successful. Charlie's going into coaching. Sign me up, Charlie. I love it, man. So I just want to thank you so much for coming on tonight, Kevin. Just always gold, man, when you're on. Is there anywhere you'd like the people to check you out or get in touch with you? I know definitely get over to Junk Evolution. You guys got to check out that website. It's just made for everybody in the junk removal industry.
Yes, it's the junkevolution.com. I got, I'm constantly putting on these pro tip blogs. Like you mentioned before, every time I see a question that gets, asked a lot in the groups and nobody's going to help them, then yes, I absolutely, I'll start writing a blog about it, because it's too much to answer in just that comment. I have a lot to say and everything else. So I'll create a blog and then I'll post that blog in there, because people have a lot of questions and some people are just assholes when it comes to answering it because their egos are telling them, hey, just go look it up in the whatever, in the search and everything else. This guy needs help. Let's help him.
I gotta say, bro, those blogs are just gold, man, and I love it because anytime we ask something on here, I see right after the show we got a blog, a new one. I'm like, yes, hell yeah, man! And I always copy and paste, send it right to my girl so she stays up to date with all the blogs. Just keep those going, bro. We love those so much over here. And he says, Russ says, Charlie, there is a $1.99 course that has 1,000 videos. It will show you how to fuck yourself in the ass. I love it, Russ. You are the man, bro.
Thank you, Russ. Thank you, Russ. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
And just want to say thank you, everybody in the chat. Lots of great questions today. If you haven't already, please smash that thumbs up button. And also make sure to subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow. Also, get over to No Limit Haulin. Show some love over there. He's got a big interview getting released on Sunday, Father's Day. You guys could, have your Father's Day enjoyed and sit back on the couch, put on Mr. Yee and listen to him and Andrew Thompson just tearing it up. It's a great interview. I'm really looking forward to that. Also, check out Kevin Hess. Get over to junkevolution.com. Make sure you subscribe to all his channels. Check out these blogs we're talking about. Tell everybody about them. This guy really knows his stuff, and he is just out here to help us all. And you guys got to take advantage of this. The amazing value that Kevin brings is just amazing. And Charlie, what does he say? That's where you must have learned your techniques, rusty balls. Charlie, thank you for all the fun comments and everything. If you ever want to come on, would love to interview you and find out who you actually are, if Charlie is a real person.
Charlie, we would love to see you at the Junk Expo. I would love to see you in person.
God. We'll reveal you, bro. We'll make it a whole big thing, man.
I would love to introduce myself to you at the Junk Expo.
I think his last name is Hernandez, by the way.
Oh, Hernandez.
I love it. All right, guys. Well, have a great night. And we will be back on Tuesday. We got the Junk family next Tuesday, guys. So make sure to tune in there as well. Let's see that gun show, guys. Kevin ain't playing right there, brother.
I'm getting a little lighter myself. Look at these things over these boulders. Look at me. I'm getting a little shapeage now. You see that?
All right, guys, forget about it.
Look at that cat over there.